Have meeting come to order, please. Review the minutes. Anybody got any changes need to be made in the minutes? If not, I'd somebody have a motion to approve. All right. Mr. Wall, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Well, since Mr. Bailey said first, Jay, go ahead and talk first.
All right.
We're discussing our big ticket projects for next fiscal year. We're looking at purchasing an ambulance would be our. Yeah, would be great. I don't want to drop it.
Check the slide.
We're looking to purchase an ambulance next year would be our big purchase, and just a couple things that go along with that. And our biggest issue is going to be the size. So our bays are not quite adequate for the size. So we may be looking at adding an extension onto our existing bays or having to move equipment around to other areas in our existing building now to accommodate the bigger box size of the newer ambulance that we're looking at to get. But if you look at this first one, the Demirs. So this gives us the base price of what our ambulance would, what you could expect to pay just for the base price, chassis in the box, not including any accessories or custom cabinetry or anything like that would be added on to the price. And there's a whole list of stuff that goes along with that. It could be any number of things that you add in there. We're looking at either a type 1 or a type 3. And I'm going to guess you're probably not going to like the type 1 because that's going to be the cutaway, the old van style. And they only make them in gasoline now. They don't make a diesel in it anymore. So I'm assuming we're probably going to end up with the one to do a diesel 4-wheel drive like we currently have been buying. And so it's a little more expensive for the diesel. We probably add about 10 grand roughly for going from gas to diesel. But these are the base prices, and we're looking at 4-wheel drive, so you can find the type, the particular type, and then the fuel package diesel, either 350 or 450, whether it's GM, Dodge, or Ford. I'll get the base prices off to the side from those chassis and the boxes, and these are the base price. So this is what you would just start out with. So we're probably looking at around 140 to 160 just as a base price for the chassis and box without anything else added to it at that time. And all the ones that you have us a quote on them, or a quote that we got from Northwestern Burns Vehicle. And these are roughly 3 different estimates on what we could look at paying for one that's been built, like completed. And that includes, the cabinetry that we want, the seatings, the safety restraint devices, and all the different things that come along with it, oxygen tank holders and different things. And the auto loaders that we have now that we bought last year, or this year, I guess still, and put into ambulances that we currently have. So all that price is included into this. So that's kind of a rough price that you can, sorry about that. The call.
Can you give us just a break? What's the difference between type 1, 2, and 3? Not the money, but just what's the type of difference?
What? All right, which one are you talking about?
What is the difference between the type 1, a type 2, and a type 3? Not the cost,
right.
But what are they? What are the differences?
Like the type 1 would be like the old van, the E-Series Ford, like a 16 passenger van, right? A cutaway.
Okay.
And then the F-Series will be the truck chassis, like one of our ambulances is now, which would be your.
Well, Mercedes Sprinter
Would be a type 2, so that would be a van.
But it's only 2.
Right.
How does it dual wheel?
Because it's got dual wheel,
Okay.
but that's the only difference.
Okay. Type 3, jack kit, what? Just a tire GVWR?
Yes. It's and there's some debate on Chevy versus Ford now with the bigger box. on chassis length. So depending on what size box may dictate what size or what brand chassis we have to go with based on the length of the chassis.
Are these now the dual, like the dual cab, or are they
Single cab. Yeah, it'll be very similar to the newer one that we remounted last year. It's got the truck front end. It'll just have a bigger box on it. And the box size is what's hindering us with the depth of our bay. It's not, that one barely fits in there now. And we're looking at adding almost 2 feet more to the length of the box. So it's going to be door to wall if we can fit it in there.
Thank you.
On the type 3 there, that's the big box. Who around here has one like that?
Probably Sumner County has a similar one. I think Macon County's got a couple that are similar.
I think I just want to
But,
grab a picture.
We're probably not going to go as big as the Sumner County boxes are. Those are really big. I don't think they would work as well in our area with travel roads and narrow roads that we have around here. We're probably going with a little bit smaller, but bigger than what we have now. So I think we can throw out a number of anywhere between 190 and maybe a little over 200 to, and that's fully equipped with everything.
This GMC here that's 199,819, is that most about what you want?
I would have printed off the spec packages for y'all, but they're like 17 pages long. If you'd like, I don't mind emailing them all to you. I don't want to blow my printer up. But all the spec pages are with it. I have those. I can send those to you. I haven't looked over them in detail yet. Most of them are very similar in what we've added to them or not added to them. The difference in most of the costs will be like liquid springs in the suspension that lower the rear end, because the state mandates you can only have the back of the ambulance at a certain height, the deck of the inside. So if it's higher than what that is, they have liquid springs that will actually lower the rear end so that you can load the cot into the back. So some of that's about $10,000 difference in price. And then 4-wheel drive versus 2-wheel drive is really not a huge difference, but it's a couple $1,000s. And then each manufacturer is a little bit different in price. So if you get Ford, Chevy runs a little bit less, Dodge runs a little bit less. Ford's probably your more expensive manufacturer on that part.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions?
I'm completely confused. I'm sorry.
Sure.
You have to turn it on, please.
Okay. I just don't understand. This page has got like 20 different vehicles. I don't understand which one you're looking at. I see that type 1, type 3, I get that, but I don't know. I mean, all these quotes are different. I'm used to when you get a quote, it's quotes for the same thing, but they're all different. Is this just?
Yeah, this is just an example of different chassis we could purchase. Some have dual wheels, some don't. Some are gasoline, some are diesel. Some are crew cab, some are single cab. So the price difference is just these are just the chassis.
You're just giving us these to say this is what ambulances cost.
Correct.
We're gonna need.
This is what we can expect to pay
Okay.
for a new ambulance. And this would be just the base price. This isn't the 3 quotes that are more closer to what it's going to look like when it's finished. And this is what you start at. And this is kind of where we finish.
Will you be able to expand your building?
We think we can. If that becomes too much of an obstacle, then we can move some equipment from the other side. The bays are a little bit deeper on the far side. It's a little more, I mean, they're going to walk all the way around to the other side of the building, which ain't a huge deal, but it is a little more time consuming to walk from one side to the other. But outside of that, I think we could make it work till we could come up with something better if we had to. And that's kind of, it's going to be about 2 foot longer. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. And that's going to fill our bay that we're currently using front to back. We can move them to the other side, move, a smaller vehicle maybe around to where we currently house the ambulances and move an ambulance to that side. I think we can make it work there if we had to. And the problem, I think a lot of it is too, those doors aren't commercial width, they're residential width doors. So now we're getting a bigger box, and now it's a little bit wider than the ones we're at now too. So it's gonna be a tight fit both ways. So it's kind of the building's been around for a while. So it wasn't built with the anticipation, I guess, of having a bit more back then. That's the size of ambulances everybody ran. So, but now they're carrying more equipment and stuff. So needing bigger ambulances.
Chairman, question. How many ambulances do we have in use right now? You might use on a daily basis or, you know,
Two.
you got two in the fleet? How old are they?
The boxes are 2010, maybe. Pretty sure around that age, 2008, 2010. The chassis are 19 and 16, I believe, or 17.
So would this be an additional, was to replace one or?
We would take the older one and rotate it into a reserve position. We would, I'm glad you brought that up because I'd forgotten the point I wanted to make. The Mercedes, actually, we would like to go ahead and sell it and use some of that money towards the reimbursement towards the purchase price of the newer one.
How old is the Mercedes?
It's a 16 model.
Is it just not functioning as well as you want to do?
It just, we bought it in anticipation of using it more for a convalescent side. And we've just gotten to where we can't staff it full time or anything like that. And we don't have the call volume really to justify adding personnel right now. So it's right. So true. So right now we've only got 2 dialysis patients, which we're not even currently transporting because of COVID and everything. And not on their part, but on my part of staffing, having personnel out, we just can't, we don't have the personnel to even run the calls a lot of times. So
you end up with a net of 2 at the end of the day. Is this Mercedes one of the 2 that you're talking about?
yes. Yeah. The Mercedes is the one we'll sell it. And estimated, some people asked around, just probably looking at getting around 15,000 for it was a number some people have thrown out. So they'll offset some of the cost of,
How many miles do they have on it?
I want to say it's around 130, 160. It's in that range.
We paid 80 something for it.
85-ish, right in that ballpark, maybe 88. There's just not a lot of market for a used ambulance outside of a private service wanting to buy one. And that's typically where they end up going.
So we get this one to replace the Mercedes. Any projection as to when we might be facing this again?
It's going to be a few years. Right now, our older one, the one I think it's a 17. It's got over 100,000 on it. Once you hit 200,000, the state requires you get mechanical inspections every 6 months past that, and that's a cost in itself just doing that.
I know we're going to ask a question, probably when it does this. Any grants out there?
I'm sorry?
Any grants out there?
Yeah, there are, but unfortunately, the way our budget's set up, you have to show a zero balance.
Oh, well, okay.
And Homeland Security don't hand out money to people with $600,000 in their fund balance.
So you're thinking maybe one now and one in?
3 to 4 years. Yeah, it's not going. I don't anticipate it being anytime soon, and that may be very conservative. Or it may be longer than that.
Do you have any preferences to gas or diesel?
I prefer diesel.
Are they still having problems with the oxygen sensors and everything I've seen, the new diesels that require gas and everything, don't like to be idle a lot?
We haven't had any issues with ours. I know some other, I know when we got, some of them's the engine issues. I know when Ford went to the smaller diesel.
Ford and Mercedes.
Right. Ford's had a lot of injector issues. We haven't had any problems with our Chevrolets yet at all. They've actually done really well. We may stick with Chevrolet. I mean, it's going to depend on like the chassis size. If that's going to dictate, what we have to buy, then that may be the Ford we may have to go with. But so far, our Chevrolets have held up really well. I haven't had any problems out of them.
Cool.
At a future date, probably like the next meeting, can you give us a breakdown of Ford, GMC, Chevrolet, Dodge, each 3
Sure.
fully equipped the way you would want it, and then what the differences would be and which one you would prefer and why?
Sure. Absolutely. And like I said, I can email. I have a lot of that already. It was just very long to print off, and I don't want to.
Just narrow it down to like 3.
Sure.
factors.
Absolutely.
How you want it equipped.
Sure.
Anybody else got any more questions? So we need to have a meeting early next month
Next month will be good. I can do that.
because they're going to start the budget hearings in like second or third week, right?
They haven't been scheduled yet, but that's about when we held them last year.
Yeah, we'll try to have it, I'll try to get it scheduled early in, March, so you can bring that to us, and we can,
That'll be fine. That'll give me plenty of time.
okay.
Other than an ambulance, is there anything else that's noteworthy to talk about that might be coming our way?
Outside of the extension of the building, we are looking at doing we remodeled both of the bunk rooms. I mean, they're aged, and the kitchen would be our next step. We're looking to get some estimates on that, so we don't have a firm price on that, but I hate to speculate on what that may cost. It's kind of hard to find builders right now with all the construction going up. So getting somebody to come do a remodel's been trying.
I think there's no reason that you have to wait till next month. If you need to do this at the end of the month, you certainly can.
Okay,
You can have more than one meeting in a month if you need to.
all right,
As long as we have
I'll get us a date towards the end of the month then.
It typically runs a week or so for them to get the estimate back. So the first of next month would be ideal if that's a possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, that would, because I'm gonna get a couple different vendors, so it's gonna take a little bit of time for them to work it up.
How long is your build time?
He didn't include that. I can find out. It's typically 3 to 4 months at a minimum.
Do you feel comfortable with us in the county servicing with 2 vehicles? And how far down the road, the answer to that is yes, how far down the road do you think? And I'm just asking to guess, that you might have to step up to 3.
Right now, our call volume doesn't dictate the necessity to go to 3. We're still well below the unit utilization time that would start looking at 3. If we looked at 3, it would be more if we had extra dialysis patients or convalescent calls that we needed to staff like a part-time day truck or something. Yeah, so a third 911 truck, I think, is probably not necessary at this time.
Maybe in the future, wish list, maybe we can
Right, in
find
the future,
we can
obviously.
find you a new building
Sure. I
or
mean,
some building that we could redo up and make it bigger for you, have
Sure.
more room.
No problem.
If you find something around here that ain't nobody using,
Yeah.
that would fit, we could start looking at that. That'd be down the road.
Sure, yeah.
Any further questions?
Can you do anything with the Mercedes as far as, is there anything y'all can use it for in your department, rescue or whatever? I'm not, in other words, I say that 15,000 is not a.
No, it's not
big amount of money,
yeah, you're not,
But I also understand that, maybe for the years, for the mileage it's got on it, you got more food. I'm just out of curiosity, is there anything any of the other departments can use it for?
I don't know if highway or somebody, I don't think for us or rescue it's going to be very applicable because it doesn't have outside compartments or anything you can store things in. So it's,
This was looking at.
right. It's I mean, if another county agency needed it for something, it's a possibility for sure. But for us for what we do, I mean, you really couldn't use it for much else outside of what we use it for now. It's just not, if it were a box or something like that, then maybe you could maybe think of outside compartments, you could utilize it for something, but it just doesn't have this. Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of an application that it would really suit real well.
I will, try to get that in the early part of March, so y'all look, check your email. And anybody else got any further questions? Are you gonna do, Mr. Carmen's?
Basically, the building part and the interior of the building was what marked for rescue. On the rescue side, we're really not anticipating any large purchases next year. What we allocated from payroll this year or from their per diem, we moved into other equipment. We're going to look at purchasing some more extrication equipment. That would have been, I don't see us even needing
Okay.
to make another purchase like that next year. I think we're where we need to be.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you.
This is
How's everybody tonight? Give you an update on everything going on with the fire department right now. January 14th meeting was canceled due to COVID going on. January 28th meeting, we had Brian Nicholson with T-Factor come in, talk to us about updating our training, looking towards going towards firefighter 1 certifications with our firefighters. Right now, we're going through an audit of all the certificates and certifications that they have at this time. We're trying to compile that to move forward. February the 5th, we had received the SCBA's face piece and air bottles that we had ordered through the budget. We had moved also some per diem money over into the equipment account and going to use it to update some of the old packs that we had, another charger and some other items like that. Also, January, we had talked about, I had attended the 911 board meeting, and we'd also discussed about going to a digital signal versus an analog signal in the county that we have currently. It's February the 5th. I had emailed the mayor a request for new radios for the digital signal as the same as the sheriff's department and the EMS is going to go to. Today, February the 9th, also I met with the ISO rep for the county. We discussed several things, where we're at today and things that we can do to improve our ISO rating. And he gave me a lot of tips for that, but kind of went over all the paperwork and everything. And so that's just an update on that. As far as purchases for next year's budget, the large purchase we was looking at is possibly a brush truck. And I'm gonna turn it over to Assistant Chief Buckmaster now. He had done a lot of the research on it before I came here. So I believe he'd be wanting to talk about it and answer any questions. Do you have any questions about the update of everything going on?
Anybody have any questions?
So what we're looking at, this brush truck, I've updated this quote to reflect the new year, 2021 Ford F-150 Super Duty chassis, four-wheel drive, gas engine, 10-speed automatic. Reason for gas is we're trying to save weight compared to the diesel. With this being an off-road vehicle, I don't need that much weight in the front, plus the weight we're carrying. You go through, we increased our 397 amp alternator so we could do the 110 volt output, dual batteries. There'll be an upgrade to the wheels, lift, 300-gallon water in a poly tank. We carry 200 gallons currently. This one will carry 300. It'll include draft capability, refill vent, anti-swirl. It'll have foam capability. Basically, it'll be a mini engine. Rear mount pump controls. This thing is actually unlike anything most of y'all have probably ever seen. We've been researching this for about 2.5 years now. 350 gallon a minute pump on a 20 horse Honda motor. Fuel will be plumbed from the fuel line of the truck, so it won't be a separate gas tank. A lot of the plumbing, stainless steel, 10-year warranty. Y'all go through and read all the specs. This is the specs that we went over. I'm not going to go through them one by one. Page 4, you'll see the Trident foam system. Reading for the foam system, the 1.5-inch capability. We've taken our brush truck to Sumner County for a camper fire, a large camper out in a field that you could only get to with brush trucks, and their brush trucks have basically, or had, I think they've upgraded, garden hoses. So they come put the fire out. We showed it with our brush truck. The one we currently have is capable of 1.5 inches and about 150 gallons a minute. So they used their brush trucks to shuttle to us. And we used our truck to fight the fire with. It's capable of more water, bigger water with the foam. So I don't want to get away from that. So that's included in this truck as well. Mr. King, you might want one of these. Hose reel on the rear. There's a lot of safety features in this. Current brush truck has hose reel. We walk around the field spraying water, putting out the fire. This particular unit has ground sweeps on the front bumper. Sprays water. As you drive, they engage from inside the truck. It'll mist at about 30 gallons a minute. It also has an electrically operated turret on the front bumper. Control from inside with a joystick. I can turn this turret on. I can control the pattern, the stream, the direction, angle from inside. Basically utilizing one person to fight a fire with if you want to. This particular quick attack body is all aluminum, custom built. Has a 20-inch wide walkway between the cab and the tank. It's a gated walkway so that our firemen can actually get inside this gated walkway. They're protected. There's a 6-foot, 1-inch whip line inside that gated walkway. So instead of walking, tripping, falling in holes and stuff, they actually are secured in the back of the truck, spraying water. That actually, 2 years ago, we started looking at this. The company that I was looking at was the only one that made this. Several more have now begun making this body style. It's more for safety than anything else. Again, everything like is aluminum, LED lights, lightweight, spec for NFPA. It's got a backup camera, has a winch that can be attached front or rear. We can pull things with it. We can pull farm implements away from a fire. We can pull ourselves if we get stuck, front or rear. It's got a custom front bumper on it to accommodate that winch as well as that turret gun. The rest of it's basically the emergency equipment. So if y'all look at the last page on this, the picture, this is just a general idea of what it's going to look like. This is the style. Single cab, lifted, it's got the bigger tires. Went with single rear wheel mostly because, well, for my preference, every dual rear wheel I've ever seen get stuck in the mud. But we also run into several gates we can't get through with the wider truck. Several of them out in Perry's Bend, several of them out here in Cato, and actually a few up on Lick Creek we can't get into with the wider truck. The cabinets on the side and the rear, there's a big pull out in the rear. Red Bull and Springs has this truck, only a dual rear wheel. We went up there and looked at it, went all over it. We found from them the compartments weren't vented, so they built up gas fumes in them. One of the specs we changed was to vent the compartments. The other one was on the rear slide out. It's a 108-inch long slide out, didn't have a stop on it. They found that when they went to pick their truck up, and this company actually put the stop on it so you can't pull it out on the ground and fall out. The company that this is called Weiss Fire Equipment. When Red Bull bought theirs, they went to pick it up, and everything they saw they wanted fixed, this company fixed on the spot. Now, this truck is made by Weiss. Budgetary price I got last year was $140,000. They told me I'd probably get it for about $124,000. That was last year. We don't know what COVID and materials and things have done to that price. So I can't tell you for sure what the price is going to be.
Will it have a air tank where you fill up your air tanks on it?
No. No, there won't be room for that. This thing, if you look at that bed, it's going to be full. The last page got a couple of options on it. One of them is a dunnage compartment on top of the tank. Put that as an option because we may or may not need it. And if it's an extra $5,000-6,000, we probably don't need it. If it's $200 or $300, maybe. I did put the delivery in there as an option because this place is in Missouri. So this truck, nearly identical, made by Skeeter, lists at $220,000. We did find the other day a place called Fouch Brothers that also makes trucks similar. Mid-South has a builder they think can follow the specs. Safe Industries has a builder they think can follow the specs. We have multiple options other than just this brand. And I think Chief Woodard has found one other place as well recently that could spec this. Budgetary, like I said, we looked at 140, but we're probably realistically looking at 125 to 130 for that truck.
This similar to what forestry is running.
No, it's got way more than that. Let's say the turret on the front, just utilizing manpower. Keep in mind, our current truck's a 91 with 100 and something thousand miles on it. Overweight. We carried it up the cat, put it on the scale. It's overweight on the axles. No airbags, no anti-lock brakes, standard shift. Carrying that kind of weight, clutch is getting bad. It's wore out. And as everybody knows, if it gets hot, it won't start. Been to 5 different shops. Nobody can figure that part out. I'm looking at this for safety. Airbags, anti-locks. It's spec to carry the weight that it's carrying. We're utilizing our manpower better. Plus, we're keeping them safer in this compartment behind the cab as opposed to riding a tailgate thrown off when you hit a hole, or we're making them walk, dragging that hose, stepping in holes and things. We need one, and this actually has about every safety feature I could come up with on it.
How many calls do we get for brush fires now? Would you just rough estimate?
Last year, we had 73 grass fire calls. However, only 23 or 24 of them were actual real fires. The rest of them were control burns. Doesn't mean we don't have to go out there and look at them, things like that, but we've actually had, now a lot of this stuff is based on, if y'all remember about 7 or 8 years ago, the big grass fire at Bass Road, 17, 18 acres. This thing, honestly, with 2 guys, you should be able to control that extra water, like I said, 300 gallons instead of 200. And actually that fire at Bass Road, we still had the old skid unit, so we're only carrying 150 with the garden hose. So we're carrying more water. We can fight a house fire with this. That monitor on the front, you could use it just like a deluge gun. Carries 1.5 inch hose, puts up plenty of water.
Question, do you see this responding to auto accidents, things of that nature, instead of full engine, or?
For an auto accident, we'd probably take an engine. You're supposed to have 90 gallons a minute, 130 PSI on the ground, ready to go. If there's, you could, now, you'll be familiar, Mr. Scruggs be familiar, Lick Creek Road, down there by Amps, big trailers up on the hill. This will get to it, put that trailer out. You remember 3 or 4 years ago, we had to take an engine to it and got the engine stuck at the top of the hill. We put the fire out, but we had to get a dozer to get the engine back down. This will actually do it. We've discussed, actually, we could drag a 2.5 up a hill with this and hook it up for a supply and pump from an engine down below. We can get up a hill with this. We can get places where the engine can't go. And there's places like that in this county.
We got a lot of.
So that's this thing, like I said, campers. The campers out in the fields, the barns out in the fields, the tractors out in the fields, the bigger fires and grass fires.
300, the biggest gallon.
I can get a 400, but I got to go a lot bigger truck and it almost doubles the price. 400 is the biggest of this type truck I can get. Yeah, well, yeah,
So what are you gonna do with your other skid units you got?
wish you hadn't asked.
Huh?
Wished you hadn't asked. We've got a good skid unit, 200-gallon tank. I mean, yeah, it's got a hose. It's a good unit. Wouldn't mind having a chassis to go under state bid chassis for about $30,000. That'd give us a second brush truck. So if we need to, we got to. If we start expanding stations, we already built an apparatus for it.
So 45, you could put a truck under the other chassis, under the other skid unit.
Yes, roughly,
And be ready to go.
roughly. It won't do what this one will do, but yeah, it'll be a sufficient brush truck, yes.
Any further questions?
I do admit the fact that this thing will get places that a fire engine can't get. Do admit the fact that being able to put a 2.5 inch drag up the road or whatever would make a big difference, because there are places around that's got bridges that you can't take an engine across.
The reason I asked the size of the tank is because they're more of a tanker fighting force.
Well, that's really the only reason I see a purpose to buy one that's that expensive, is because of just what I just said. Like you said, you could put the light off the back of the engine and take off to go fight the fire and fight off of that while the engine sits at the bottom of the hill. Which, you know, we've got some places around here I've been noticing, because I've been doing a lot more running the roads, that you're not gonna take an engine across the driveway or across the bridge.
There was a justification for some of the additions, the suction on this. I could park this thing in a creek. I can provide an engine with water with this thing. Like I said, it's got suction, it's got foam.
Right, it's just strictly.
Doesn't have the pump this one's got.
Strictly tank in the back. and
It's, yes, it's a sliding unit. That's all it is.
How high is it set up off the ground?
What's that? This?
Yes,
It's got a 3-inch lift kit. That's all the lift is. It's 3 off of a stock 450. I really don't know what that gets to.
you'd be able to get through most of these little creeks and stuff
Yes,
with those big tires.
yes. This will have more clearance than I got. It had more traction. Being a Ford, my experience, sorry to some of y'all that, and I'm not a Ford man, even though I drive one. Ford's about got the best 4-wheel drive I've seen. They didn't even price this in a Chevrolet for me. They didn't expect it in a Chevrolet for me, so I don't know what it would do. The F450 has the chassis and everything built to handle what's on this truck, the weight and everything.
300 gallon, you're looking at 3,000 pounds plus your equipment. It's probably got a GVWR.
It's in it.
Probably 25,000.
I don't remember what it was, but it's in here somewhere.
You'd actually,
16,500 GVWR.
more than that.
And it's 10-speed automatic. Matter of fact, when we questioned the fire department, we questioned the gas. My philosophy was saving weight. I think Matt actually drove one of these big Fords. We did have the 10-speed in it.
Yeah, it's a 450.
Drove good, handled good, all that, and it a gas motor. Power-wise, it won't have a problem carrying that kind of weight, being gas.
So what we've got right now is not like the hybrid with this thing is, where you go hillside and look, you know, it should be like a moving car.
What was that, Matt?
This is not just replacing what we have, this is step up from what.
Yes, this is based, every piece of equipment that was added to this spec on this is based on previous calls where we needed something and didn't have it, or we had to call for it from somewhere else. Thing of it is, it all ended up on one truck. Now, let's say we did go and operate and look over this truck only in a dually at Red Bull and Springs. They bought one 2 years ago. They've had no issues other than, like they told me, venting the compartment for fumes. So And if any of y'all want to, like I said, you in Red Bowling Springs, they've got one basically like this.
You think by the first of the month, you have a kind of an idea about what it'll cost?
I can, if that won't interfere with the way we do bids by sending the sheet to one person.
Okay.
Well, are they on the contract, open contract, if they contract or anything like that?
Weiss is not.
Okay.
I did not see the name on HVAC, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't ask him too many questions. What I did is I picked two trucks, a 2019 and a 2020 that had what I wanted, and then I combined the specs from it. And then I told her what I was doing. This was for the grant last year, because I wrote the grant for this truck. And I needed to know what kind of price put on it. And they said, she said budgetary 140, you should be able to get it for about 124. Again, that was a year ago. It could be cheaper. Could be more expensive too.
Well, we could take the specs and send it out for a bid. I mean, that's gonna.
Well, I think we found at least 4 or 5 companies to send this out to.
Right.
I wholeheartedly expect this one to be the best.
Sure.
The only one that bothered me is that Fouch Brothers. I had never heard of them up until about 4 weeks ago. And as I researched them, they do a very similar truck. And they're in Georgia, I think. So.
We're still gonna have to bid it, unless it's not state.
Yeah, and it won't be state bid just because of all the additions, and I didn't see them on HGAC. So the mayor's told me about 2 or 3 other cooperatives we go through.
I mean, even if you have to bid it out, it's not gonna take, you can have that back in a month's time.
I'd like to bid it just to see, because like I said, we've got a lot of different, within a 400-mile radius of here, we got a lot of different choices to go. The fact that Skeeter was in the $200,000 range for a very similar truck leads me to believe these people, and the fact I could put my hands on one of these, they're going to be very competitive. But once they, you start sending this out to 5 or 6 different suppliers, manufacturers, it may get even more competitive. That's what I like to see.
They're all gonna be paying basically the same for the base truck with their chassis and their cab. So it's just the gauge and their work on putting components together, building the custom bed and all that.
Yeah, the bed is going to be the thing. It's custom built. The emergency equipment itself is specific in its spec sheet as far as the lighting, as far as the plumbing, as far as the firefighting equipment. They're specific. So they're going to be relatively the same price. It's going to be the fabrication work. And I know you asked Matt about the time frame to deliver. I have no idea what a time frame on this is. They've been running about 4 months from order to delivery to the last few that they've done.
So you can get a bid back from everybody in 3 or 4 weeks.
I got this as my spec sheet. If I think Jay's, we went over it. So as long as he's good with it, the mayor wants to send it out through the mayor's office.
We're ready to send it out.
Okay. That's good.
I just do research, y'all figure out what you want to do with it. Y'all get me in the middle of something here.
Anybody else got a question? Is there any other business? Any public comment?
Just make one point. That vehicle, rough mass, loaded, all weighs 12,000 pounds. You only gained it 700 pounds that loaded diesel. The torque and payload is even more. I don't know. You just might consider a lot for what little gain you're going to gain on weight for such a heavy vehicle, on the longevity of it, being able to carry that much up and down steep hills and things like diesel might be consideration made, I don't know. It occurs to me, math says that a diesel might be better suited for that much of a G.
Okay.
Just saying.
Mayor, you have anything to say?
No, sir.
Okay.
Make a motion adjourned.
All in favor, say aye. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for showing. At least it was last night. This boy, we're out here recording the